Hello, I'm John Osha, Reporter General of AIPPI, and I'd like to take a few minutes to explain the process of adopting an AIPPI resolution. AIPPI's resolutions have special standing in the IP world due to the detailed, multi-step democratic process through which they must pass to be adopted by AIPPI's Executive Committee. Although the process is complex and relatively long, it is unique in terms of ensuring all voices are heard and considered at multiple inflection points along the way. Of course, involvement from all of AIPPI's groups and members is key to success of this process. So if you have not yet volunteered for a study committee, worked on a group report, or attended a plenary session, I highly recommend taking the next opportunity to do so. Turning then to the process itself, AIPPI resolutions can start out either as study questions or as standing committee proposed resolutions. I'll take the study question process first. Soon after each Congress, the Reporter General team, known as the RGT, and the Program Committee, known as the PC, send requests to the standing committees and to the national and regional groups and independent members for proposals for study question topics. The received proposals are then considered by the RGT and PC and distilled into a number of choices from which the Executive Committee will choose the following year's topics. Typically, the RGT and PC select from among the proposals 2 alternative choices in each of 4 categories of IP, but there is some variation in that year to year depending upon the topics. The important thing to note here is that if the proposals for topics are made, for example, in year X, then the selection of the study question topics is made by the Executive Committee in year X+1, the next year, and the selected study question topics are analyzed, debated, and voted on in year X+2, the year after that. So it is indeed a long and involved process. Once the study question topics have been selected by the Executive Committee, the RGT holds an introduction and scoping session at the current year's Congress to get input on how best to frame the topic and what issues to include or exclude. Participation at this session is strongly encouraged, as it is critical the questions be framed correctly from the outset for the process to run smoothly. Thereafter, usually by year end, the RGT prepares and circulates study guidelines for each question. The study guidelines are essentially questionnaires that provide a background discussion of AIPPI's prior work in this area, if any, and ask a series of questions about the group's current national and regional laws, areas for possible improvement, and proposals for harmonization. Based on the study guidelines, the national and regional groups and independent members prepare group reports, usually by May or so of the following year. The group reports are detailed studies of national and regional law and also provide important insights into areas where consensus may exist among different groups for potential harmonization. So let me stop right here and note that the group reports themselves are an amazing resource on national and regional laws. Over the years, AIPPI has considered a vast variety of topics in all areas of IP, and all of the group reports are available in the library. This is an expansive, free resource that is not widely appreciated in the IP community. Even if the process were to stop here, it would be quite useful indeed. But it does not stop here. Following receipt and publication of the group reports, the RGT prepares summary reports for each study question. The objective of the summary reports is to identify the areas where commonality does or does not exist, and to point out any particular trends or observations from reading all of the group reports for that question. The summary reports do not attempt to summarize the national laws of each country. That is the job of the group reports themselves. Rather, the summary reports explain trends, areas of agreement or disagreement, and indicate percentages of groups that take one position versus another. Because the RGT typically receives 35 to 45 group reports for each question, and each report is quite lengthy, preparation of the summary reports is a major undertaking. I should mention that at the time the groups submit their reports, they are also requested to identify a study question representative for their group who will serve on the study committee for that question. The composition of the study committee is thus determined entirely by the groups. The RGT then, considering experience and diversity, selects study committee leadership, including a chair, 2 vice chairs, and a secretary from among the study committee members, collectively known as study committee leadership. Following completion of the summary reports, study committee leadership then prepares a first draft resolution that is distributed to the members of the study committee. It is important to note that at the time of the first draft resolution, the work is being done in committee only. So the first draft resolution is not distributed outside the committee. Thus, if a group wishes to participate in the committee process, it should ensure that it designates a representative to each of the study committees. The study committee then holds a study committee meeting to debate the first draft study question resolution. This is a detailed and sometimes lengthy meeting that involves word-by-word editing of the draft and voting on the draft on a paragraph-by-paragraph basis. What emerges at the end of this meeting is called the second draft study question resolution. For voting during the study committee meeting, only the designated study question representatives may vote, so 1 vote per group. The meetings, however, are open to all AIPPI members, so any member may attend, listen, and contribute their own perspectives. Each second draft study question resolution is then considered during its own dedicated plenary session at the Congress. The plenary sessions repeat the process of considering and voting on the resolutions on a paragraph-by-paragraph basis. And often significant editing occurs during the plenary sessions. However, the issues are typically more focused during the plenary sessions, following the detailed work that had been done in the study committee meetings. With regard to voting, all members of the executive committee can vote at plenary sessions, meaning that the voting shifts from 1 vote per group, as in the study committee meetings, to votes based on the number of delegates from each group, which under AIPPI statutes are proportional to the size of group membership. Sometimes this shift of voting weight will cause shifts in resolutions from positions taken in the study committee meeting to the positions affirmed during the plenary session. At the conclusion of the plenary session, the resulting resolution is called a plenary approved study question resolution. The plenary approved resolutions are then presented during the closing session of the executive committee, called EXCO 2 for short, for consideration and adoption. So as you can see, it is indeed a lengthy and detailed process. It is also uniquely interactive and democratic. So when AIPPI issues a resolution, the IP community worldwide can be confident the issues have been fully studied, considered, and debated prior to adoption by the EXCO. Let me return then briefly to Standing Committee proposed resolutions. Standing Committee proposed resolutions end up in the same place as study question resolutions and have exactly the same force and import. They just start out differently. Instead of being a topic chosen by the executive committee, briefed by the groups, and a first draft resolution being prepared by a study committee specific to that question, the first draft standing committee resolution is prepared by a drafting group within the standing committee itself. Each group has the right to nominate members to each standing committee, so the standing committees already reflect an international viewpoint on the issue. The standing committee then circulates the first draft standing committee resolution to the national and regional groups and independent members, inviting written comments within a specified period of time prior to the next Congress. After consideration of comments received, the standing committee finalizes the first draft standing committee resolution for consideration during a dedicated plenary session at the next Congress. From there forward, the process is the same as that described previously for study question resolutions. So that's the end of this not so brief explanation of the AIPPI resolution process. One final word, please do get involved. AIPPI needs input from all of its members for the process to work its best. Further, from a professional development standpoint, I can tell you there is no experience in IP like working on group reports and following the resolution process from committee all the way through to an adopted resolution. We look forward to your participation. Thank you for your time.